gotta go. I'll get my car. I brought mine. Yours. I gotta get me one of those.
Hello, welcome to my special new computer stream, to Batdan's new computer stream. I just got a brand new computer yesterday that I'm hoping will vastly improve my streaming quality, so I won't have any issues cutting out, not hearing anything, which, by the way, if you can't hear me at all, I'm not embarrassed. Please just let me know in the chat or the private chat to any guests on here. The whole point of the stream, to test this out. But also to catch up on various topics of DC and Star Wars. Star Wars, DC, to catch up on. And the very first topic I want to talk about is the Ahsoka 2 trailer, Thrawn's return. And I just need to say, before we start, justice for fives. If you have seen Clone Wars, you would know that Ahsoka Tano would not be alive if it wasn't for the brave actions of Clone Trooper 5555, also known as Fives, the only one to almost expose Order 66, the inhibitor chips that made the clones commit Order 66. But you know what? Streaming by myself isn't really that much fun. I really need other people with me, someone to collaborate with. And this person who I'm going to bring on, he is not afraid to tell the truth. He will expose the lies for what they are. He has a really great book coming out that I am so excited to see. So please I can't even talk today. Please let me welcome Zod Writer.
Hey.
What up, man?
Hey, it's great to be here, man. I'm excited to talk to you today. Congratulations on the new computer.
Thank you. Yeah, so far I feel like it's been an improvement. The picture on my end even looks a lot better.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm curious, have you seen the Ahsoka 2 trailer?
I have, yes.
So what's your knowledge of Clone Wars and Rebels?
Well, I did watch all of Clone Wars and all of Rebels. And I have to say, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Ahsoka. I think it's going to be a good series. I think a lot of people have missed the little shades of Anakin Skywalker in that trailer as well, because not a lot of people are talking about it. But I'm excited. As a fan of both Clone Wars and Rebels, I think it's going to be entertaining.
And just, if you watch Rebels, I love the exact detail to get right. Like that bridge on Lothal that Sabine rides on, it looks exactly like the animated series in live action.
Yeah. They've done a good job. And I think the young actor that they got to play Ezra Bridger was very well cast as well.
Oh yeah, even like, I don't know, his voice even kind of sounds like I don't know if it's the same actor, I don't think it is, but his voice does kind of sound like the animated Ezra Bridger.
No, it's not the same actor as the animated actor, but it's good. It's good casting.
And Sabine looks, it looks just like, it looks like her animated counterpart, especially when she cuts her hair.
Yeah, definitely.
But the big thing that we have to talk about is we finally see Thrawn in live action, and a lot of people have mixed reactions about it.
I had a mixed reaction about Thrawn, and I'm going to tell you, I don't like the way he looks. I think they kind of missed the boat. I mean, if you've been following the EU books that have existed for years and years, and the most recent Timothy Zahn novels for Grand Admiral Thrawn, it's a different look than what they're showing in in Ahsoka, and it kind of looks like a guy cosplaying as Thrawn more than it does Thrawn, and I'm really kind of disappointed, especially with the way he looked in Rebels. I don't understand why his live action counterpart is so cheesy looking, but that's just me. That's just my opinion.
It's weird to me because it's the same voice actor from Rebels who's playing him in live action, and I looked at, I swear his head is shaped differently.
Yeah, he doesn't have a Thrawn-shaped head, if that makes any sense.
But even when I see pictures of the actor in live action, of Lars Mikkelsen in live action, just him, not Thrawn, and then I see his portrayal of Thrawn in live action, even that looks different to me. I swear the real Lars Mikkelsen looks a little bit more like Thrawn than what we saw in the trailer.
Yeah, I agree. And I was one of those people that thought that they were going to just go all out and pay Benedict Cumberbatch to come in and play the live action version of Thrawn. I just thought that that's what they were going to do. It seemed like, because they have this history of getting MCU actors to come in and play, Star Wars characters. So I was expecting that. So I was surprised when they went the route that they did, but ultimately, again, I'm not crazy about the look, and maybe his look will be better in the actual series than he is in the trailer. But I don't know, man. I'm like I said, I'm getting a cosplay vibe, and that doesn't make me happy as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, I get that completely, and I'm torn because here's the thing. I would still rather have that. I know that they recast a lot of actors from live action to the animated series, but Thrawn is not someone you could do that with. If some other actor played Thrawn, I would have a hard time accepting that. So I put it like this. I'm willing to trade off looks to a degree, especially if they improve on it from the trailer, if we have Lars Mikkelsen, because just another actor just wouldn't do it for me. Not with him. Not with Thrawn.
Yeah. Exactly.
But did you notice the callback from Rebels when I don't know what those orange lightsaber people, they're not Sith Lord or Inquisitors, but they're with the First Order.
Yeah, the First Order Imperial Guard.
Yes, him. You know how he said, "We're no Jedi." Did you know this exact reference to what Ahsoka said to her master?
Yeah.
So love that call out, and it's kind of sad seeing him though, because that's the actor who died, right? It's the one who died. Because I think it's the guy who played the First Order guard. He was like the actor in Ahsoka who died recently.
Right, and it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that real life tragedy moving forward with the show.
And it depends what they do with the character. For all we know, the character is killed off in season 1 and it doesn't make a difference. But even that's, I'm just picturing if they kill off the character and they're celebrating, because if he's a bad guy. So if they saw, it's like what if they celebrate his death? Are they gonna have to cut that scene out because then it feels disrespectful?
I don't know. If the actor plays a good enough villain, you would celebrate the villainous nature of the character, and therefore you wouldn't, because you're honoring the legacy of the actor by celebrating the way the role is being portrayed on screen. So no, I even if he's a super villainous character and he is killed off mercilessly on screen, and you see Ewoks celebrating his death, and you see all kinds of stuff going on and super pyro, I think it's still it's still acceptable, especially if that's the role that he chose to play. I mean,
and that's a good point. And that's what you do with an actor. You honor their character. He gave a good performance, and he'd want us to. I shouldn't speak for him. I didn't know him, but I'm sure any person in his position would want us to celebrate his great role that he played.
Absolutely.
And we just have to appreciate it when we see his performance, and that's all. And if the character lives, Lucasfilm will figure that out. But for now, just enjoy a great season with him. There's so much great stuff with Rebels too, and Sabine being a Jedi, that one really caught me by surprise.
Yeah, but they've got to do stuff to spruce it all up. So we'll see.
Did they reference that? Was that teased at all in Rebels? Her being Force sensitive? I know she had the dark saber, but other than that,
I don't. Offhand, I don't remember her Force sensitivity being fully on display in Rebels.
So, but again, it's a cool twist. So that will be interesting to see. And Ahsoka mentioned she walked away from Sabine just like her master, which, again, it's funny. I blame Obi-Wan for Anakin's turn, but also Ahsoka left Anakin.
Yeah. So it's a common trait. Jedis tend to walk out on people that they care about. It's
don't get attached, and yet they both got attached.
Indeed.
I am kind of disappointed they couldn't get the voice actress for Hera in live action, because with these, I understand with human characters you can't do that, but with alien looking characters, I always get disappointed that you can't get the same voice actress. But the other one does a decent job from the trailer, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I guess I want to get to your sprinkles of Anakin Skywalker. I don't want to forget about that.
Yeah, well, there were some, he's in the trailer. It's just very quick, blink and you miss it kind of thing.
Oh, really? Where? Like,
you'd actually almost have to show the trailer, but
yeah, I don't need Disney calling after.
Yeah, no, it's not. But yeah, he's in there.
Okay, I'll try to look for it next time I see it. And I guess also I do want to bring this up too. I love how you see Sabine's painting of the Ghost Crew, and it looks exactly like the animated one.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was intentional.
Hey, people say what you want about Filoni, but he does pay attention to the details. And actually, before we completely move on to Filoni, because he's actually our next topic, is there anything else you want to say about the Rebels I call it Rebels because it feels like a Rebels season 5, because it is. The Ahsoka trailer.
I'm with you. I'm looking forward to it. I don't, there's not much we can say other than what we have. It's just a trailer, so yeah, I'm excited. I mean, and we'll probably have plenty more to talk about once the show starts up. So,
yep, and I can't wait. And so I want to bring this guy up too, Dave Filoni. Here's the thing about Filoni. He is so great with details, and I think he should be in charge of Star Wars over Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, for a while, there have been several rumors that she's on her way out. I don't know how, legitimate that is, but I think they'd be better off if Kathleen Kennedy wasn't there personally. Because between Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, I think Star Wars would just be a better brand overall, a more healthier brand.
Oh yeah, 100%. And sorry, fruit fly coming after me. But remember in Revenge of the Sith when Grievous tells Anakin, "You're short. I expected you to be a little bit older," and Anakin's like, "Oh, you're shorter than I expected," implying that this was the first time they met.
Yeah.
Did you notice how in Clone Wars that Anakin and Grievous never met once? They never interacted.
Oh yeah, they had to do that for continuity.
And that's why I say Dave Filoni is the real GOAT of Star Wars, is so many writers would have ignored that.
Yeah, but I don't know. That would have been pretty glaring considering the prequels. And here's the thing. Star Wars fandom is very, very intense when it comes to continuity.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that at all.
So, yeah. I don't think that would have went over very well.
I mean, there are some Star Wars fans who don't even like Dave Filoni, even though I think he's the closest thing to George Lucas you're going to get.
Well, I think the reason why a lot of people are kind of sour on Filoni now is because there's some alleged reports out there that Filoni has kind of bent the knee to Kathleen Kennedy. And that's a problem in the greater Star Wars mythology at this point. You don't want Dave Filoni becoming aligned with Kathleen Kennedy ever. So if that's true, that explains why there's a lot of conflict as far as people being in support of Filoni.
Just gotta be careful what they exactly mean by bend the knee, because there's a difference between compromising or playing the game for a little bit and completely giving in. People need to remember that.
Yeah, but it's also been, pretty widely, talked about that, Jon Favreau was doing the Lord's work for Star Wars, and essentially, from what's being talked about in some of those circles is that Filoni has kind of, I don't want to say necessarily backstabbed Jon Favreau, but he's kind of aligned himself with Kathleen Kennedy, and that's not good for the overall health of Star Wars. But I mean, we don't really know. And again, that's why I say, I mean, unless you're there or you have behind the scenes, confirmation.
Exactly. You don't know. And that's
you just have to judge the content for what it is, I guess.
Yeah. And that's all you can really do at this point. You don't want to give in to rumors because you don't want to, and this will kind of perfectly segue into our next topic. But before we do that, I guess, do you have anything else to say about Filoni?
Not really, no.
Okay, well then I guess your opinion before we transition is 5s. Should he get justice?
I mean, yeah.
Just saying, he is the clone trooper. Ahsoka would not be alive. And that's why I always say justice for 5s in all my Star Wars discussions on my channel. Because he deserves justice. But you were saying something, Zodwriter, about you want to judge the content, not go off rumors. Because I agree. People are not guilty of what they haven't done yet. And I fully believe that when this person became in charge, the right thing to do at that time, I'm talking about at that moment, was to give him a chance. And wait until he actually does something before we get our pitchforks at it.
Yeah.
Superman Legacy, Dawn of Justice. My, oh my, is James Gunn desperate.
It's actually being called Dawn of Justice?
No, that's the nickname I gave Superman Legacy.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. When I saw that for a second, I'm like, my God, how did I miss that?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I know. Gunn's not that creative to come up with that. But it's just ridiculous. It's like, this is a Superman movie, and you have Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Hawk Girl. There's a fifth. I feel like there's a fifth one. I don't know, but still, it's a lot of people for a Superman movie.
Yeah.
Place, Pam Abdy and Mike DeLuca had greenlit Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. Their relationship with Snyder is not only perfection professionally, but also personally. Abdy and DeLuca recognized the global phenomenon that is Zack Snyder's Justice League and desired one more go around with the Snyderverse theatrically. David Zaslav's disastrous decision to fully endorse and double down on the cheaper reboot option from James Gunn and Peter Safran obliterated the ambitions of Abdy and DeLuca. Zaslav has no loyalty to the brand of DC. His business tactics are ruthlessly built around cost-cutting measures that in a roll of the dice sort of way may garner success. Unfortunately for Zaslav, he has failed to recognize that when a fan base is hungry for more of a property and the numbers don't lie, the safest bet may be a bit more expensive up front, with the payout for capitalizing on fan demand earning much more financially long-term. Abdy and DeLuca understood this and desperately sought to impart it onto David Zaslav. Their attempts were futile. Zaslav's subscription to being cheap now in hopes of becoming successful later had won out and anointed Peter Safran and James Gunn with the keys to the DC kingdom.
I love that clip. That is such a... It's funny though, when you uploaded it for a second, I thought you got kicked out and were trying to come back in, but my God, that is such a... really perfectly exemplifies how we got in this situation right here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it, and that's why I put that there, because when I see here, Superman Legacy, Dawn of Justice, I'm thinking, my God, this is what it's come down to. What we could have had in comparison to what we're getting, because WBD is in the hands of a very, very cheap studio boss. And James Gunn is going to provide the lowest common denominator, cheapest possible TV-esque budget kind of, popcorn consumption, type movies that I just... Superman deserves so much better, Bat Dan. And I am sitting here thinking, my God, we are going to be in for a colossal disaster.
Yeah. So I have a good analogy that I want to kind of give that really illustrates that clip you just showed, what David Zaslav did. Picture you're taking your car into a service shop, a dealer, wherever you get your car serviced. And let's say they have this repair that you need to get. They insist that you need to get it or your car is going to break down, but you don't get it because you're a cheapskate. And then what happens is that you're driving along, you skimped on that repair, your car breaks down. And now you're thinking, man, that little bit up front that I had to pay for this repair now doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, exactly. What Pam Abdy and Mike DeLuca wanted to do with Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 would have repaired the DCEU to the point where you would not have needed to reboot, because that movie would have made the money and would have allowed for other projects. And I'm telling you this, and as what people don't realize is that we were a lot closer, okay, to the Batfleck movie. to Man of Steel 2, definitely Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 was going to be the next movie right out of the gate. It was being fast-tracked. DeLuca and Abdi wanted to get that movie out before Zaslav made his decision to put James Gunn and Peter Safran in power. They were scrambling to get things going. And, you know, when Peter Safran and James Gunn got the kind of power that they got, it completely blindsided them because they didn't know that it was going to be that, you know, that intense. But for some reason, James Gunn, you know, put his crafty cheapness in Zaslav's ear and was able to convince him that the better way is to just reboot completely and let him handle it, that he could do it on a shoestring budget and allow for the movies to basically build, you know, slow burn like they did for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this is what it's all about. With Zaslav, he's a cheapster, and what he wants is to spend as little as possible for the opportunity to perhaps see riches in the future. Like what you said, your analogy makes perfect sense. It makes logical sense because you're gonna spend a little more up front, but what you're going to get is it's gonna help you more in the long run. And this is what Abdi and DeLuca were trying to say. This is what they wanted Zaslav to see. Yeah, you're a cheapskate. You don't want to spend the money, but here's the thing. There's fan demand for this. Fans want to see this. They will see it in droves. Fans were upset. They were hurt. They were irritated by the fact that Zack Snyder's Justice League didn't get a theatrical release. They wanted a theatrical release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you put out Zack Snyder's Justice League Part 2 and you make it a theatrical release, it's going to make you $1 billion. It's going to get you back into the good graces of the very people that you want to give you their money to keep patronizing these films. And Zaslav didn't understand that. He went with a guy whose track record in DC is horrible. His movie flopped.
Yeah, but COVID and that happened.
If you want me to, I can give you the clip that I just posted an hour ago about the Guardians of the Galaxy and about the. Hold on, I'll give you this clip here. This James Gunn clip. Let's put this clip out here because I think you. Let's see here. Which one we're talking about? I got so many clips here. This is okay. Here we go. This is it's a true story right here. This one.
10-year-old lifelong comic book movie fan Brian Dobbs walked out of his local Marcus Theatre with his girlfriend Kim and her parents Reggie and Patricia. They had just finished watching James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. This is the first time they have been to the movies since COVID-19 began. Brian was excited to see what James Gunn would do in his DC directorial debut. Having been a huge fan of Gunn's successful Guardians of the Galaxy movies, there was no way in Brian's mind that James Gunn wouldn't deliver the same high-quality level of entertainment for DC Marvel currently enjoyed. Brian and his movie-going party felt this experience would be worth having theatrically. They all loved Zack Snyder's Justice League, which they viewed together as a family on HBO Max because it was not an option to watch it in a cinema. Brian revealed to me that his girlfriend Kim and her parents were confused by The Suicide Squad. This was the first DC movie they were watching after Zack Snyder's Justice League, and they all wanted to know why none of the characters showcased in that movie carried over. Zack Snyder set up so many great plot points for the future of DC, and James Gunn did not honor any of it, Brian frustratingly told me. Kim and her parents are general audience members, and even they are aware of the epic way Zack was telling the story. James Gunn made a mockery of DC, and this experience was a complete waste of time and money. Brian was not surprised when James Gunn's The Suicide Squad tanked at the box office.
And neither was I.
And Brian is a fan of James Gunn. He's a fan of James Gunn's other work, of the Guardians of the Galaxy films. I've got a lot more, with Brian in the book. That was just, a small snippet from his experience. But imagine coming off of Zack Snyder's Justice League and taking your family to go see James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, because it is the next movie released by DC, and it actually got a cinema release during COVID. You literally go to see this movie, and you're expecting to see at least some connective tissue to Zack Snyder's Justice League. You're expecting to get something out of it. And what you find out is, not only do you not get any connective tissue to Zack Snyder's Justice League, but it almost comes off like the movie's in a completely different universe, completely different timeline. You have Superman, who was shot with a kryptonite bullet and put in the hospital, and is not even, is barely referenced in the movie. It's a travesty, and it's basically the very definition of ripping off your customers and not allowing them, not capitalizing on what they want to see. It would be like you putting out The Empire Strikes Back and then never releasing Return of the Jedi. You go from The Empire Strikes Back and then you release like The Last Jedi. It's a completely different movie. It's a completely different thing. It makes no sense. It's going to throw everybody off. The only people that went to see James Gunn's The Suicide Squad theatrically were the people that thought that it would have connective tissue to Zack Snyder's Justice League. And these were not super fans like us. These were just general audience people who watched Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I knew that ZSJL would be canon because Zack Snyder, at that time, Justice League was considered canon among the DCEU. So I knew there wouldn't be connective tissue, but you're right. The general audience does not know that. They just see Zack Snyder's Justice League and they assume the next one's going to continue off. And it didn't. And the tones were different. And this is why, and you said just something right there. You mentioned the kryptonite bullet and Superman was in the hospital. This is the guy who is directing this movie right here. Not that it's actually called Dawn of Justice, but this guy is directing Superman Legacy and writing it. The guy who not only had Superman in the hospital, but also had a character of his say that Superman has a poop fetish.
You see, and this is exactly why anybody that's behind James Gunn is defending James Gunn and is acting like James Gunn is the man for this job just doesn't understand. Doesn't understand DC, doesn't understand the characters. But a lot of these people, these same people will tell you that Zack Snyder didn't understand DC, that Zack Snyder didn't understand these characters. But did Zack Snyder give Superman a poop fetish? Did Zack Snyder put Superman in the hospital from a kryptonite bullet? And not even, and it isn't even done in a tasteful way, because there actually is a comic book out there where Superman did get hit with a kryptonite bullet. It actually did happen in the comics, but it was done a lot more tastefully and respectful to the character than the way it was handled in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. So,
yeah, I agree. Well, I guess I'll put it like this. I didn't read the comic book, but here's the thing. Superman's a big character, and it just felt like such a side-handed comment the way it was said. Like, it wasn't Superman was in the hospital, and it's just they just threw that line in there like it's nothing.
Right. It was a throwaway line, like Superman is a throwaway character. And it shows that James Gunn never respected or cared too much about Henry Cavill's depiction of Superman. And this is why his whole thing is, I got to recast. I got to bring in my own people. I got to do my own thing. And I feel like James Gunn is essentially like the destroyer of DC. He's coming in, and I give the example all the time of like the Trojan horse from Marvel. He's coming in, he's a Marvel head, he's coming in and he's going to destroy DC from the inside. And people are just falling for it and believing in it and getting on board with it and are getting ready to enjoy Superman Legacy. They're all in. They don't have any, because they're not really fans of DC. They're fans of James Gunn, and they're fans of James Gunn's Marvel work, and they're his diehards. It's like the Snyder fans versus the Gunn fans. You're gonna always have, diehards that are gonna ride with Snyder no matter what. And you're gonna always have the diehards that are gonna ride with James Gunn no matter what. But the problem is, James Gunn doesn't understand DC. He never has, and you can tell that by the work that he's put out. You can tell that James Gunn's wheelhouse is Marvel. He should stick with the MCU. I don't like James Gunn, but I can acknowledge that his Guardians of the Galaxy movies are decent for Marvel. I like the first one. I really do. The second one I didn't care too much for, and the third one I thought was a better movie than the second one. But my thing with James Gunn is that he's good in Marvel. He should probably still be doing Marvel projects. I mean, he's still promoting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to this day.
And supposedly he's going to produce that Star-Lord spinoff while he's in DC as a DC head. He's going to produce, possibly direct it. He's definitely going to write it. Which proves that we're in a bizarro world kind of universe that doesn't make sense. Because in what world does the CEO of one company get to work directly with the rival studio? How is that's a conflict of interest? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get that guy. Like, I'm having a tough time understanding how this was even possible. Because you would think that if he was going to take that role as CEO of DC Studios or co-CEO with Peter Safran, that he would have to give up his connections to Marvel while he was in that role at DC Studios. I agree. I mean, I respected that he had to do the holiday special and finish Guardians 3 because that was already a commitment he made. I respected that. But to me, once Guardians 3 was over, that's when his ties with Marvel should have been over.
Yeah, and apparently it's not. This is going to be the only CEO in history. It's like the CEO of Coke moonlighting, working on secret projects for Pepsi. It doesn't make sense. You can't do that. It's never. In what world is that acceptable? No, I don't get it, man. I'm just like, I'm genuinely surprised that this is allowed to happen, and I'm also frustrated because I just feel like in any other time that we're living in, this would be impossible. I could give you, we could come up with dozens and dozens of examples of ways that this doesn't make sense in comparing other companies, like the head of McDonald's suddenly working in the meantime, in the spare time, working with Burger King and the same thing, take any two competing companies. This is exactly what's going on. Marvel and DC are direct competitors. It doesn't make sense that one of them is the president of one of the studios, but he obviously loves and cares about Marvel more, and yet
he's doing the Superman movie.
How was he able to get this? How was he able to get this job? Like how? I mean, it's his Marvel stuff should have automatically disqualified him, especially if he is not able to separate himself from the Marvel universe while doing DC work, especially in the role that he's in.
Yeah, I agree. And like, there's something I want to say earlier that I do want to clarify based on what you just said. While I did say I respect Gunn for having to finish his previous commitments, that doesn't mean that I respect Zaslav for allowing Gunn to be in that situation. Zaslav had the right to tell Peter Safran no, because what Sil and Mikey have said is that Peter Safran is the one that Zaslav wanted, and Gunn was a package deal. But Zaslav should have just said, hey, look, I can't have this guy while he's promoting Marvel work as a DC studio head.
Exactly. And Peter Safran is another one. I don't know how Peter Safran was even in the conversation either, because
he gets all this credit for Aquaman.
Because but the thing is, he gets all the credit for Aquaman when in reality it should have been the Snyder fans that got all the credit for Aquaman. Because here's the thing, we all wanted to pay Jason Momoa back for his promotion for the Snyder Cut. And so that's why we all went to see Aquaman in droves. We knew Aquaman wasn't going to be the greatest movie of all time, but we still supported it because we all felt we owed that to Jason Momoa. So we went out and made that movie a hit. Peter Safran has nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
and it's
Jason Momoa.
And it's clear based on what's happened after with Shazam 2, which was Peter Safran's baby. And now, Aquaman 2 is going to flop, and it's going to flop hard. Honestly, it's going to be one of the biggest flops of the year, guaranteed. If The Flash flopped, you don't think that Aquaman is going to flop? I'm at the point now where I just think that Zaslav's got to go. Gunn and Safran have got to go. The sooner WBD gets sold and just becomes absorbed by another company, the better off everybody's going to be. The better off these properties are going to be. Because the longer you leave DC in the hands of these incompetent morons, the worse it's going to get. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to. I've learned so much about how the industry works just from writing this book. I'm learning so much that to me, it's like finding out. I mean, it's like being a little kid and finding out that there is no Santa Claus.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some of the revelations that I've gotten as a result of this project have really, really shook me to my core, because I've come to realize that this studio is low down, scummy. They will sell their grandmothers if it will make them an extra buck. They are not trustworthy people. They do not care about licenses. They do not care about properties. They damn sure don't care about actors. They don't care about writers, and they don't care about directors, and they don't care about fans. Okay? These are all things that I learned in writing this book. It is not about anything other than making money and making their egos bigger. That's all it's about. And they will. And here's the thing about these studios: they will put these greedy executives will put their egos in front of money, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people are like, "Oh, well, it's all about money with studios." No, it's not. It's about money, yes, but it's also about ego. And if it's ego versus money, what will surprise you is ego wins out. Because let me tell you something. Zack Snyder's Justice League could have ended up in the theater. But Toby Emmerich's ego wouldn't allow Zack Snyder's Justice League in the theater. Because guess what? Zack Snyder's Justice League gets put in the theater and it becomes a massive hit, becomes a smash hit. Now, what have you done? You have validated the fans. You have made these scumbag Snyder fans, right? In the eyes of Emmerich, you have made these scumbag Snyder fans invincible because you have proven that they were right and the studio was wrong in what they did. And that's all you've done is embolden the fans. That's all you've done is given all your power as a studio to fans. This is why Sujihara was the way he was when you go all the way back to BVS, because Sujihara knew that if Zack Snyder's if BVS made $1 billion, the studio was going to be tethered to Zack Snyder's vision. There was no way they were going to be able to walk away from that and go the Marvel route. But they wanted to go the Marvel route. And the only way they could do that is if they could figure out a way to get rid of Snyder and make it look like it was Snyder's fault. And this is what you have. And it just continues on and on and on. Snyder is getting blamed to this day for stuff. And Snyder has been gone from DC for a long, long time right
2016. Now. I don't really even count the Snyder Cut that much, honestly, because that was mostly done. 2016 was the last time we really saw him working heavily on DC. And
not to mention, I'm going to point this out too, because a lot of people don't know this either. Zack Snyder worked for free on Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder did not take a paycheck for Zack Snyder's Justice League because he just wanted to get it out there. He wanted it to get finished, and he wanted to make sure that there was enough money to get the project done, and he didn't want the studio to have any control. So he didn't take a paycheck. If that doesn't show you how much Zack Snyder values the fan base and values finishing what he started, for all the people that say, "Oh, but Zack doesn't want to come back and finish his movies. Zack doesn't want to do that. He's happy making Rebel Moon. He's happy with his own IPs." No, he wants to finish DC. He thinks about it every day of his life because it's unfinished business. Everybody has something in their life that is unfinished, that they wish they could go back and fix and finish. Everybody has something like that, because as human beings, we leave a lot of unfinished things in our lives. And I'm telling you now, Zack Snyder is not gonna rest easy unless he gets a chance to finish his arc for DC. He wants to finish it. And so anybody that says that, "Oh, he does," no, they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm here to tell you, it is not. This whole thing is massive studio corruption. It's studio corruption on the level that I believe the studio should really be shut down and disbanded completely because of the stuff that they do. I'm not even lying. They should bulldoze the studio and start again. Sell off all the assets and just not. Warner Brothers should not exist at this point. I'm advocating for the abolition of the studio after writing this book, because I honestly don't see that the studio is never going to learn. It's just one corrupt operation after the next. and it doesn't get any better, and it's not going to get any better for anybody. And all these people that, oh, well, James Gunn, he's going to do it better. He's going to do better. Yeah, well, I got news for you. James Gunn, the only reason James Gunn is being given free reign to do what he wants to do is because he's doing everything on the cheap. He's doing these movies are so cheap that they're like, they don't necessarily have to make a profit to be successful, because they're not spending the kind of money that you would need for a Zack Snyder film.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of things you said in here that I really kind of want to bring up. Is that one, it's funny because the studio, here's one way that James Gunn has been exposed as a liar. Henry Cavill was too young for Superman. Yet Nathan Fillion was not too old for Guy Gardner. Characters who are supposed to be of similar ages.
With James Gunn, it's not about anything. It's about show friends, nepotism, putting his wife in everything. James Gunn is not about... James Gunn, remember when I told you it's about money, but more importantly, it's about ego. And James Gunn's ego is the size of Texas and California combined. What you have to understand about James Gunn is that's what it's about. It's all about his ego. It's all about what he wants. He's going to cast his friends. He's going to cast his wife. It's about show friends. The business comes second to him. This is why his Suicide Squad movie flops, and it's one of the worst things possible for DC, but yet somehow now he's in charge of the company. It's about ego for him. And he is not, and this is why you're going to see all of that. You're going to see his ego all throughout Superman Legacy. This is James Gunn through and through. He's writing it, he's directing it, he's producing it, and he's got his imprint is all in it. It's all James Gunn. And when it flops, they'll blame the Snyder fans.
But here's the thing. If it is the Snyder fans' fault that Legacy flopped, that only means the Snyder fans were not a minority. Is that we just didn't watch a project that didn't interest us. It's as simple as that.
It doesn't matter, though, because as long as they have, and this is another thing that I have in the book that I'm sharing on your show. Here's the thing. As long as they can use the Snyder fans to justify their failures, they'll continue to do whatever they want to do. They hate us so much, Bat Dan, that they are willing to continue to sacrifice millions and millions of dollars just to spite us, just so that they can stick their middle finger up at every Zack Snyder fan and Zack Snyder himself. They don't like Zack either, because you know why they don't like Zack? The reason they don't like Zack is because Zack has a bigger following than anything that they can hope to put out. They don't have nothing that can compete with Zack. They did no promotion whatsoever for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and fans did everything. Fans put the word out. Fans made it the biggest streaming juggernaut of all time. They won't tell you that. They won't release the numbers. They're going to continue to hide the numbers, just like they did with BVS when they lied to us and told us that BVS didn't make $1 billion, which was a lie. It did. It made $1 billion, but they covered it up. They don't want Snyder fans. They don't want us. They want us gone. They want the wholesome, Marvel, family-friendly audience. They want to appeal to kids. They want to sell lunch boxes. They want to be in that bracket. They saw what Marvel was able to do, and that's what they want. That's the path that they want. Zack Snyder is not what they want. And what we're seeing here is the perfect example. They know how powerful Henry Cavill was in the role as Superman. They know everybody loves Henry Cavill as Superman. So what did they do? They went out and got an actor who resembled Henry Cavill as Superman so that they could try to bamboozle the audience into thinking that, well, we don't have Henry Cavill, but this guy resembles Cavill. So you're going to want to see this movie because we still have a Cavill-looking Superman. It's like trying to. I mean, we saw all the memes where they compared, PlayStation 5 to a cheap Chinese knockoff PlayStation, and the cereal boxes, the Fruit Loops to the generic Fruit Loops, and all the different comparisons we saw when Corn Sweat was cast as Superman. The bottom line is they can pay Corn Sweat next to nothing compared to what Henry Cavill was being paid. They can put him to a deal for like a Robert Downey Jr. type deal where they give him 10 movies. They give this guy 10 films, and they don't even have to pay him a fraction of what they got to pay Henry Cavill if they were to bring Henry Cavill back as Superman. They knew what they were doing when they screwed over Henry Cavill. It wasn't that it was all, and this is another little tidbit that, a lot of people don't realize and will never know until they read my book. But Black Adam was set up to fail from the beginning. The studio didn't want The Rock coming in and taking over DC. They knew that if Black Adam was a success, that Rock would have to have more control in DC than what they wanted him to have. And they wouldn't be able to argue with him because it would make too much money. So some would say that Black Adam underperformed. But you want to know the funny thing is, Black Adam has made the most money of all the DC movies to date since they announced that they were doing this stupid reboot crap. Black Adam made the most money. And technically, if you want to get real technical, Black Adam is akin to what Batman Begins was when Christopher Nolan, took over and did his Batman thing after Batman and Robin nearly killed the Batman franchise.
Oh yeah, Mikey Sutton even used that analogy with Black Adam after the box office performed, because it built up hype. I mean, the thing is, why was Black Adam given such high expectations when he's a nothing character? I honestly think the sequel would have done so much better. I really do.
It was. It would have, and it would have set up so much more because you would have gotten that confrontation between Black Adam and Superman that everyone wanted to see.
And I am so the thing is, I own Black Adam on DVD, but I can't watch it emotionally because I will get too depressed if I watch that movie now. Because of what? Just seeing that Henry Cavill scene at the end, I just couldn't do it now. It's depressing. Because of what we lost. And it really just pisses me off, this hypocrisy that really has gone on with Gunn. Because, you know what's funny? And the reason why I kind of bring this Dawn of Justice up is that people got so mad when Zack Snyder tried to cram in all these characters in Batman v Superman. Yet look at what we have in a Superman movie. You have 4 or 5 unrelated characters in this movie. You practically have a Justice League in this movie, yet so many of these gun shows are kissing his ass. This is Gunn. You said Gunn's ego. This is what this is. This is Gunn's ego trying to show up, cram as many characters as he can, giving a plot that is basically the love child of Black Adam and Batman v Superman. That's what Superman Legacy: Dawn of Justice is.
It's not people don't care, because as long as Snyder's not doing it, that's all that matters. It's a manufactured hatred for Zack Snyder that, I got news for you, doesn't exist in the real world. Okay, in the real world, general audience, moviegoer, like that clip that you played a little while ago, general audience members like Zack Snyder and liked where Zack was taking the story. That's the biggest secret about the Snyderverse. General audience members like the Snyderverse and want to see more of the Snyderverse. They are not. That's why I've got about 5 or 6 stories like the one that I played today, where people went to see the Suicide Squad because they thought that it was going to have some connective tissue to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it does not. And this is the reason why DC is in flux right now, because you have brand confusion, because nothing connects, nothing makes sense. They basically took, they don't want to let Zack finish what he started, but they want to blame Zack and his fans for every failure that has occurred since he left. And that to me is unbelievable. That to me is another reason why Warner Brothers needs to just, be disassembled. There should not be Warner Brothers. I will say this: within 5 years, if Warner Brothers is still a company, I'll be surprised, because this company is a joke. This company is like they are basically everything that's wrong with the Hollywood movie system, the movie structure. They're worse than Disney. I'm going to be honest with you. Warner Brothers is so dirty that it's like they're oh my God, they're dirtier than a $2 French prostitute. I'm telling you, they are the worst. It does not get any dirtier than Warner Brothers. I could write 3 books just on the dirt of Warner Brothers alone. Even if I don't, and you know what? I could write 3 books about it, and I would never have to even mention Snyder's name. That's how bad Warner Brothers is.
Oh yeah,
I hate this company. I hate this company. I do. I detest this company. After everything that I've learned, I detest them. As a company, I wish they didn't exist. They need to be bought out, sold, and dismantled, and all of their assets need to be just, I don't know, they need to be sold out. There needs to be like a massive fire sale where everything must go, and Batman might go over to Tubi, and Superman might go over to Disney, and Wonder Woman might end up on A&E, whatever. What I'm saying is that Warner Brothers needs to go. They have created such a toxic culture in the film industry and the TV industry and everything that they're involved in. They're just it's like they're a cancer, and they need to be cut out, because it's not going to get any better, and it doesn't matter who you put there. Everybody was like, when Walter Hamada came in, everybody was like, oh Walter, he's going to do all right. Walter will be all right. Look what happened with Walter. Look what happened with the guy before him. Look what happened with Kevin Tsujihara. Look what happened. And now look at what David Zaslav is doing. Nobody who is ever put in charge at that company has any clue how to run the studio. And they don't want to do right by nobody because all they care about is their egos, and they're willing to put ego ahead of money 100% of the time. And this is something that people don't understand, because here's the thing. The money shit doesn't impact them at all, because they're still getting their money. They're still getting their bonuses. You notice there was a report that came out about the highest paid CEO right now. Who is it?
Zaslav.
Exactly. So do you think Zaslav cares if the next 5 DC movies flop? No, because he's got his money. It's personal greed. So the thing is if these movies continue to fail, it's not his fault. You know, the brand is screwed up. What do you want me to do? I'm doing the best I can.
And the thing is, though, my issue is that Zaslav is the one damaging the brand. The Superman movie, this Dawn of Justice Superman movie, that Zaslav is the one who greenlit this. Because at the end of the day, whatever Gunn does, whatever Safran does, at the end of the day, it falls on Zaslav. He is the leader. He is in charge. And what he needs to realize is that people were excited when Henry Cavill announced he was back as Superman. People were jumping for joy. I actually thought that DC was finally going to be a strong brand again. And I think they would have been a strong brand again. They would have been a strong brand even with The Rock. the Rock, I argue would be
the problem. The problem is, and this is the thing. It's not like you don't have a voice of reason at Warner Brothers. You do, in Pam Abdy and Mike DeLuca. But Pam Abdy and Mike DeLuca are ignored and dismissed because Zaslav believes that James Gunn and Peter Safran's way of doing things can save them money and make them money at the same time. That's what it is. He thinks that's all it's about. So he doesn't care who does it. Let me tell you something. Zaslav would have kept Henry Cavill if Zaslav could have got Henry Cavill for the price that they're getting David Cornsweet. If Henry Cavill would have agreed to the contract that they offered Cornsweet, then they would have kept Cavill. But they know Cavill's not going to go for that. Cavill's a much more expensive actor. And Cavill's not going to join James Gunn's DCU as Jor-El either. That's not something that he's going to do. So you got to look at what the situation is, and like I said, all Zaslav cares about is his personal money, and spending as little as possible and trying to maximize profits. But they're doing it wrong. Man of Steel 2 would have gotten them out of their financial hole.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the hype for Man of Steel 2 was through the roof. The hype for a Zack Snyder's Justice League sequel was through the roof. The hype for make the Batfleck movie through the roof. People don't understand. The general audience wanted this. It's the minority scumbag, faceless trolls on social media that have all the power, because they're the ones that hit Warner Brothers back in the BVS days. They're the ones that were like, Henry Cavill is a joyless Superman, and Ben Affleck is a killer Batman, and Batman doesn't kill, and all this other crap that that is just ridiculous, and shows that these people have never read a comic book a day in their lives. I am at the point where I don't see it. It's not going to be successful. And this is the funny part. The big joke that's on WB and Zaslav right now is that they think that all of these gun fanatics, all these troll accounts on social media that are, hyping up James Gunn and are talking about James Gunn, these people aren't going to go see these movies. These people that are following Gunn right now and championing everything Gunn does, they don't go to the movies. They pirate everything. They don't go to the movies. They don't pay to see anything. They're all a bunch of kids. They don't pay for nothing. They don't pay for nothing. Whereas Snyder fans actually pay to go see these movies. Actually, repeatedly will go see these films in the theaters multiple times. They are the movie-going audience. James Gunn's followers on Twitter and social media, they don't go to the movies. It's like I tell people all the time, activists are not fans. These people will go on Twitter and will start fights and will create problems and cause drama, but they're not the ones that are spending money to promote your movies. They're not the ones that are gonna bring you the money you need. This is why every single one of these DC movies has failed.
And that's why this one will fail too. Superman Legacy is going to fail. Look at how much they're throwing into this movie. And again, I don't know these actors that well. I'm sure they'll do decent. The actors themselves, I'm saying not Gunn, but so much is in this movie. We should be excited for this. With everything we're getting Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, we should be excited for this movie. And we're not. Because of, as you said, the DC brand, it is dead. The DC brand is dead at the end of the day. And to be honest, Superman Legacy, Dawn of Justice really does not deserve its own topic that much. So I'm glad we were sidetracked because I don't have faith in it. I really do not. There's only one hope for DC, Zodwriter. One hope for DC. And maybe Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi can help with this. SellZSJLToNetflix. Our only salvation.
I'll tell you what. I believe that this is going to happen. I think that the talks are happening. And I also believe that we've already started to see evidence that it is happening.
Like Netflix buying God, there is a fly. I swear there is. You can't see it's very tiny, but there's a fly that's flying in my face. But anyways, HBO though. Netflix is literally buying HBO original content. Not
to mention that Zack Snyder's Justice League has been removed from HBO Max in European countries.
Did you see that night? This is going to sound random, but if you saw Night Shift, it's not going to be random. Did you see that Skywalker's last Night Shift with Mikey Sutton?
No.
But basically what Mikey Sutton has said is that the reason is what... Now, this source essentially is... His source didn't say this is for sure what happened. This was essentially the most logical thing that could have happened, is that Netflix wanted an exclusive deal of the Snyder Cut, but Warner Brothers Discovery was charging too much. So as a compromise, they're going to get the exclusivity to the Snyder Cut, Netflix, in Europe. That's the reason. Again, not 100% confirmed. Mikey didn't even say that his source is 100% sure on this, but that's what the theory is right now.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think we're on a path to that. I think it's gonna become an eventual reality because they need money. The studio is broke. They don't have anything, and they got a bunch of incompetent bozos running things. So it's, it's like Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca tried to tell him, look, you put out Zack Snyder's Justice League Part 2. You release it theatrically. It's going to do well. We don't even have to have Snyder come back. We can have somebody else come in and direct it. But we need to finish this up. We need to finish the Snyderverse if you're going to have audience goodwill going into the projects that James Gunn is going to be doing.
And here's the thing, though. they can still get some of that goodwill if this happens. Because me personally, if we get Zack Snyder Justice League 2 and 3 or Nightmare or a series, whatever, I'm going to mostly just say 2 and 3 for now, just because that's what we know it as. It could change to whatever later on. But the point is, if we get that proper conclusion to the Snyderverse, I would be willing to give what James Gunn is doing more of a chance, because at least Warner Brothers gave us that conclusion in some way. This is how they do it. And you mentioned Zaslav doesn't want to spend money. He doesn't have to spend any money on this. None. Zero.
Well, that's one of but that's one of the reasons why it might happen. But then again, you have to also take into consideration what I've learned, which is they will put their ego ahead of money any day of the week. So what you also have to understand is James Gunn might not want this to happen, because James Gunn is thinking, I got my thing I'm about to do here. I don't want a competing DC universe on Netflix. And that is something that, could derail things from that perspective. And again, they will put their egos in front of money. So that to me is the only caveat. But if it's not that serious, and this is the one time that the cheapness of David Zaslav could work in our favor, because he's such a cheapskate and he's all about doing whatever he's got to do. He would sell his grandmother for some extra money. You can bet that if Netflix offers a big enough deal, they're going to jump on it, because they need that money, and they are going to take that money over James Gunn's ego, which is going to be, I don't want this because I don't want to compete in DC. I don't want to compete with Snyder, because he knows he can't win. He can't win competing with Snyder. He can't. You cannot. You're not going to be able to beat Snyder. Snyder has an army of fans that has changed the world in the way that these movies and the way that this kind of stuff happens. Nobody in their right mind at the time believed that the Snyder Cut would ever get released. Everybody laughed at the Snyder fans and told us that we were chasing vapor, that we were never going to amount to anything, and it was never happening. They were all proven wrong. So for a fandom to have that type of power and to have that type of reach, Gunn already knows what he's up against. And so the worst thing that could happen for James Gunn would be for SellZSJLToNetflix to happen. The best thing that could happen for WBD and David Zaslav would be for SellZSJLToNetflix to happen. So that's why I say it. We might just luck out, because David Zaslav wants the money.
And that's kind of what the thing you kind of said right there, is that it depends how much of James Gunn's ego can reach David Zaslav. Because at the end of the day, this is not James Gunn's decision. This is David Zaslav's decision. But remember, it was James Gunn that was able to convince David Zaslav not to go with DeLuca and Abdi's surefire plan to finish out the Snyderverse that would have made them money and got them out of debt. You see, that's the problem. This is why, if James Gunn had that kind of sway, James Gunn could somehow be able to, work his magic again and say, well, no, David, don't sell to Netflix, because maybe sometime down the line we'll do a Kingdom Come or a Crisis on Infinite Earths, and we might want to use Zach's characters. So don't do this, because if you sell it to Netflix, then then they're going to do their thing, and we're not going to be able to maximize profits later on by reusing those characters again. James Gunn's a crafty dude. I mean, he could come up with something. I mean, again, he was able to
outpace DeLuca and Abdi, and DeLuca and Abdi had the more sound proposition, because at the very least, if he would have went with DeLuca and Abdi, he could have solved their short-term financial problems, and then they could have still rebooted with James Gunn stuff later on. So it really made no sense whatsoever not to go with DeLuca and Abdi's plan. But whatever.
And that's why it's kind of hard, because we at the end of the day, we don't really know what's exactly going to happen with this. But I mean, one thing I'm hoping for is that James Gunn's main argument was that it would cost too much money. At least he doesn't have that argument with this hashtag. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping will work against Gunn.
Yeah, again, the only argument he really has is that they might want to use Zach's iteration of characters later on, and if they sell to Netflix, then they kind of would lose the ability to do that. And it all just depends on what James Gunn's long-term plans are.
Oh, he doesn't have
for
any
DC.
plans.
And you're right, he doesn't have long-term plans, but here's the thing. He's very spiteful, and he hates the Snyder fandom just as much as all these trolls and idiots online do. So it's all about ego with James Gunn. He may not have plans, but his ego is telling him to do whatever he has to do to prevent the Snyderverse from being continued on anywhere. He doesn't want this to happen. This would be the worst thing that could happen to him. Because it's going to be a total blowout. Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 goes over to Netflix. Who's going to be talking about Superman Legacy? Honestly, nobody's talking about Superman Legacy now.
It's Zack Snyder still out trending James Gunn, even though nothing's going on right now. If James Gunn didn't let his ego get the best of him, if James Gunn was not an egomaniac, so I know this is never going to happen, but I'm saying if James Gunn was not, if James Gunn got on board with the Cell hashtag saying DC is a multiverse, shows a picture of Corn Sweat, shows a picture of Cavill, and then writes hashtag SellZSJLToNetflix, James Gunn would garner so much support from everyone. That is how he would unite the fandom if he did that, but he's not going to do that because he's an egomaniac.
Well, yeah, he's not going to do that for a number of reasons, but also they could have did something like that which would have required less, which would have been to simply allow DeLuca and Abdi to close out the Snyderverse like they wanted to before James Gunn announced his reboot and before James Gunn took over.
And you know what? I bet you if they properly close off the Snyderverse and like Henry Cavill finished his story, got his Man of Steel 2, got his Zack Snyder Justice League 2, maybe Zack Snyder Justice League 3, maybe even a Man of Steel 3 and Black Adam, the Superman movie, but like a proper conclusion, I bet you if James Gunn after that asked him, Cavill, hey, would you like to be Jor-El? I think then Cavill might have been more receptive to doing it.
I don't know. I just know that at this point, you're not wrong when you say that SellZSJLToNetflix is the only salvation, because there isn't anything else that we can do. Abdi and DeLuca were our only hope at WBD. Had Zaslav listened to them, we would have got what we wanted, or we would have gotten at least a fraction of what we wanted. We would have gotten something. We wouldn't have gotten left out in the cold like we're getting left out right now. We would have actually gotten something that we could have looked at as a conclusion. Whether or not Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 would have led to anything else is debatable at this point. But at the very least, we would have gotten something. We would have finally got that confrontation between Superman and Darkseid. We would have finally gotten something that was tangible, that would have been a success, that would have helped pull WBD out of their debt. But That wasn't meant to be. Again, we're dealing with a crafty guy in James Gunn. We're dealing with a guy that knows the right things to say. Okay. He knew the right things to say to David Zaslav to appeal to his cheapness and to make him see Gunn's way as the right way. And that is why we are in the position we're in now. I don't think anybody outside of James Gunn fanatics care about Superman Legacy. I don't think there's a chance Superman Legacy is going to be successful, but by then it's going to be too late. If Superman Legacy, if James Gunn's thing even comes off the ground, because you've got other topics that may indicate that'll end up getting held up as well. So,
oh yeah, and we'll get into that pretty soon about why this Legacy likely will get held up. And there's actually kind of a bridge to that topic. So James Gunn actually kind of did something. Well, we don't officially know that James Gunn did this to try to derail Cell, but did you hear about what his brother Sean Gunn did recently in protesting?
Oh yeah, outside of Netflix. Protesting because he was complaining about his royalties for Gilmore Girls, when in reality he's just a bit character on Gilmore Girls. He's not even, he doesn't really have that much of a substantial role. And the irony of the whole thing is that Warner Brothers owns Gilmore Girls, not Netflix.
So Warner Brothers would have been the one that he should have complained to. And I was kind of watching the Cool Table speak about this, and I kind of agree with them. Is that I think that Sean Gunn, and again, this is a theory, this is not a confirmed fact, so don't take my words as gospel, but I do think that James Gunn sent his little brother to protest Netflix as a response to Cell.
Well, yeah, because like we just got done saying, James Gunn knows that if Cell happens, it's game over for his DC. There is no, it's just a game over scenario. You cannot have two competing DCs and expect people to prefer his cheap fake version of DC over the authentic Snyderverse that people have been supporting for years. It's just not going to happen. And I think, and that's so funny though. Sean Gunn is such an idiot that to be protesting Netflix over a Warner Brothers property.
Yeah.
And he knows full well that Gilmore Girls is owned by Warner Brothers. It was a publicity stunt. And you know what? I don't really know if it was because of Cell, but I would say that it was kind of a pseudo power move, but it just kind of backfired and made him look like a jackass. Because, James Gunn is head of DC Studios, which is a part of Warner Brothers. So Sean Gunn couldn't be protesting Warner Brothers when his brother is co-CEO of one of Warner Brothers studios. It's just, yeah, the Gunn family ego is just a mystery on itself. And,
and Sean Gunn really is a weasel.
Absolutely.
I just showed it. He played Weasel in the Suicide Squad, and now he plays a weasel in real life.
He is a weasel in real life, 100%.
And again, so I never watched Gilmore Girls, so I can't say anything about his character, but you said that his role's not even that big.
No, it's a little bit part. He pops up more often than like your average guest star, but he's not really that important.
Okay, good to know. And go away, you stupid fly. But yeah, so Sean Gunn just screwed up there. He just made himself look like an idiot, and he derailed a good cause. He derailed a justifiable cause that is going on right now. One that I'm sure James Gunn is ignoring privately, just pretending he supports, is this. I hope I got that hashtag spelled right. Too many letters. But this right here is what's going to kind of kill our entertainment right now. Is why it's hard to talk about entertainment at this moment. Is we got the actor strike, we got the writer strike. It's all a mess right now in the entertainment world, and Zaslav certainly is not helping. Bob Igor is not helping, or Iger. Bob Iger's not helping. It's all a mess right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and artificial intelligence is going to take over. That's what it is. They're going to have artificially intelligent scripts. You're going to have artificially intelligent actors. You're not going to it's a mess. It really is. And it's got to be the worst time right now in Hollywood to be a writer or an actor.
Oh yeah, completely. And yeah, I do agree. The AI thing is definitely what's making this hard right now. I mean, I guess the real trick is who can last longer? The studios until AI becomes advanced enough to be perfect, or the actors and writers? That's the trick here.
The studios. My money would be on the studios. They can outlast, because thing is, writers, actors, they gotta eat. They gotta live their lives. Studios are like well-oiled machines. They can just keep going. I don't really. That's the only thing. I think that we are in a position where it's not really favoring the writers and actors right now.
Would you notice how they were also encouraging us to cancel our subscriptions? Some of them, the writers and actors.
Yeah.
And they're doing that because they know that the studios have power. Because the thing is, right now, the studios have one advantage too, is that they already have content out there. They have plenty of content. Because the reality is, if no more new content came out, at this point, we would not run out of stuff to watch between Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and Max and Peacock and Amazon. There is so much content out there that we could probably go the rest of our lives without new content, in theory.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that that it's not looking good, and it's not going to take long for AI to become indistinguishable from the real thing when it comes to movies, TV shows, that kind of stuff. It's not going to take long. We are where we are right now technologically. I'd say we're about a year and a half to 2 years away from that being a reality. From being able to go on Chat GPT and literally put in a prompt of what you want. Give me Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill, and make sure that includes this, and this, and this, and this. You click your enter button on your keyboard. A few hours later, your feature-length film is generated. You sit there and you watch it. It'll be indistinguishable from anything that you currently have in your collection. So.
Yeah, and honestly, that's depressing, but that's a reality. And I think, too, some of these scientists who are against AI, instead of protesting AI, what they need to do is get a bunch of people together and get a powerful computer virus failsafe implanted. So that when AI gets too strong,
where we are right now with that is, unfortunately, we are at the point of no return, where they really couldn't do that if they wanted to, because AI is advanced enough to where it's sustainable. It's already beyond that. You can't what they have to start doing now is they need to start conditioning coming up with ways that humanity can coexist with it. So in other words, there has to be a way that it can be like lived with, and so it's inevitable that it's going to take over, that it's going to be the dominant technology, and it's going to probably become, when it becomes general AI, AGI, the general intelligence, or super general intelligence, it's going to eventually surpass humanity and become the ruling entity on Earth. They could have did something that what you talked about, but they would have had to have done that years ago. That would have had to have been something, 2016-ish is what we were talking about. That's how far along before they would have really needed to go in and start doing that. Now, the only thing they can do is hope to keep pace with it, and try to put things in place to make it so that it wants to work and peacefully coexist with humanity. But I'm going to be honest, it's not really looking good. Like I said before, the best we can hope for is that AI, when it gets that intelligent, it looks at humanity as ants, and it essentially just lets us do what we want while it does what it wants. Because there's really no, you're not gonna stop it. It's able to go in any network that it wants. So there's no way you're going to be able to stop it. You could learn to live off the grid, farm, be completely, just, farmland and just no technology whatsoever.
Sometimes I feel like I would like to live that way even without AI existing. So
yeah,
people are stupid. So maybe that's for the best.
That might be, that might be something that we, might be a direction that humanity may have to go years down the line, because there's going to be a lot of struggle before we get to the human utopia that will eventually result from AI peacefully coexisting with humanity. And you're going to have a lot of things in the future that will make it possible for humans to keep pace with AI, such as like the Neuralink technology that's being worked on now, that will allow human beings to essentially upgrade to being able to be as smart as AI, or at least have access to things the way that AI does, and allow our brains to process things faster. And those are technologies that are being developed now. So, to get us to that point. So that's another way that we'll be able to, we'll all have chips in our brains, and that's how we'll be able to coexist with AI. It's about human survival at that point. So
kind of funny we're talking about AI on my new computer stream too.
Oh yeah.
So just irony right there. So yeah, it sucks because short term, we have this actor strike and this writer strike that we are worried about. And look, do I hope that this gets resolved in some way? I really do hope it does. And I'm trying to have faith, because here's the reality of the situation. Whatever happens, it's beyond our control. I'd rather live my life having faith that things will work out for the best than spend my life panicking and then not having lived the few years of life that we had left. Put it like that.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, the problem is that is the things that studios want to do. Studios want to have actors come in and be like, okay, you play this role. So, for example, they bring in Mark Hamill and they say, okay, Mark, you play Luke Skywalker for this movie. You play Luke Skywalker for this movie. You get paid for this performance. You're done. But then we can use your image and your likeness forever. And we don't ever need you to come back in ever again. And you don't get paid. You don't get any residuals. You don't get nothing. You're getting paid for this one performance, and we get to use your likeness for till the end of time. That's what they want. That's what they want to do.
Which to me, that just sounds so appalling, honestly. I mean, it's sad that that's just the reality of studios because, I mean, this is their job. They need more money than just a day, and that's
Nope, that's not what they want. They want to be able to, they want to be able to just, eliminate the need for actors, because think of how much money the studio's going to be able to save by being able to eliminate actors and writers. At the end of the day, right? It's kind of, and what these studios don't realize though is it's a double-edged sword, because while you're getting rid of actors and you're getting rid of writers and you're getting rid of all this stuff because you think you can do this content without have it all be AI generated, what you're not understanding is everybody in the world is going to have access to this same technology. Mm-hmm. It's going to be able to do the same thing you do. So if you don't like a movie that a studio puts out, you just put in a prompt, make some changes, and create a better one for yourself, a better cut.
I've done stuff like that with ChatGPT. I've had ChatGPT write a Man of Steel 2. Heck, I even had ChatGPT write a Superman movie starring Henry Cavill where he fights a hippo. I actually did that, and it gave a better plot than what would have happened in Justice League.
What I'm trying to say is this is the end of Hollywood as we know it. What they need to do is they need to make a deal, and they may need to make a fair deal. There needs to be a fair deal between studios and writers and actors. And it has to be realistic and it has to be fair to everyone involved. If it's not, and the studios play chicken with the writers and the actors, they can do that. But what they have to understand is they're killing themselves in the process, because this technology is not going to be exclusive to them. There is nothing they're going to be able to do to stop you or I or anybody else who wants to use the technology in the same way that they're doing to generate our own films, our own TV shows, our own whatever we want. Right now, and you made a great point where you just said, I use ChatGPT to write my own Man of Steel 2. Yeah, now you're doing it and you're able to do it in text, and it does it within a minute or two. But imagine being able to do that, not only do that, but it actually generates the movie for you to watch.
And here's another thing I thought of too. I just thought of, what happens if, let's say, Superman's under copyright right now. What if someone wants to generate a Superman movie who doesn't own the rights to Superman, but then puts in, they put Superman in all those characters' names, but then they put it in a little script saying, but change all names to avoid copyright. There's an avoid copyright filter. And ChatGPT ends up coming with their own version of these characters, not under copyright.
Well, you can have that too, but at the end of the day, you're also going to have versions of that's going to generate that stuff, copyright or not. It doesn't matter. It's out there. I mean, I'm using an unrestricted, unfiltered version of ChatGPT 4 right now. I have it installed on my computer. It's uncensored and unrestricted. It doesn't have any limits as far as what you ask it. It won't give me an excuse. If I ask it to give me a script for whatever, it's going to give me the script. It's not going to tell me, oh, well, there's a copyright for this, or ethically we can't tell you this. No, it's going to tell me, because I have an uncensored version of that chat program. And this is exactly what is going to happen. studios will have the copyright to certain characters and certain things they're going to be able to do, but they're not, and they'll be able to release official, in quotes, official versions of, these movies that are all generated by AI, but nothing is going to be able to stop fans from doing the same thing. And not only that, nothing's going to be able to stop us from sharing our own fan generated, AI versions of these movies.
And that's why if the studios were smart, and I'm going to emphasize the word smart, they would realize this and work with the actors right now so it doesn't go that far.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't. AI can be used as a tool, but if they want to acting like they want to be able to rely on it completely, because it's going to save them so much money in the long run. But yeah, it's going to save you money, but ultimately it's going to ruin you too, because I don't need the studio to make movies. If the studio is using a prompt and generating the movies the same way you or I can, why do I want to pay the studio when I can just make my Man of Steel sequel? I could put in my own ideas and get the movie I've always wanted to see. I could you could make very, very descriptive prompts and tell the computer exactly what you want, and it spits it out, and there you go. You're good. You're good, man. You want a continuation of whatever, you've got it. You don't even need to really do all that much. You just need to have a basic idea of what you're looking for, and the AI will fill in the rest.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not going to help anyone, including the studio executives, in the long run, which they need to realize is, look, at the end of the day, entertainment's my escape here. I want this to end. I want the writers and actors to get a fair deal. But they need... AI should only be a tool. It cannot... The instant you let it take over our lives, it's going to have ramifications. I'll put it like this, studios. There's no profit in being dead. There's no profit if we're all dead. And there's no profit if you guys lose your jobs. So, just saying. Just saying.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. The studio executives, that's the other thing they don't realize. They can just as easily be replaced by AI, just like actors and writers can be replaced by AI. There's already some companies out there that have AI CEOs already.
I thought, how with the whole, this is going to sound random, but again, it's going to circle back into what we're talking about. You know how with Ezra Miller and all that, I always say with the defamation, today it's Ezra Miller, tomorrow it's you or me?
Yeah.
Well, this is what the studio executives need to realize with the AI. Today it's the actors and writers, tomorrow it's you guys.
Pretty much. Exactly.
And we both have jobs. We all have jobs in real life. I don't want my job replaced by an AI. I need my paycheck. I need my money. I need to.
Well, but see that what that's going to do, and this is, I've said this before, but what's going to happen is all of these professions, all of these jobs are going to get replaced by AI. So many of them. There's going to be so many people unemployed. There's going to be so many people without jobs. But as human beings, we have to eat. We have to be able to sustain ourselves. So what's going to happen is the world governments are going to get together, and there's going to be a push for what's called UBI, Universal Basic Income. And what's going to happen is that universal basic income is going to be a limited amount of money that everybody is going to receive. And we're going to live off of that money and essentially start working towards the betterment of humanity as a species, because AI is going to be handling all of the basic jobs. We're talking transportation, customer service, medical, you name it. AI is going to take it all over. So when you eliminate humanity and you eliminate those types of jobs, now human beings are living for the betterment of the species. They're living for the prosperity of the species so that it can continue. And that's where, as a society, humanity will move away from greed and the need for wealth and the need for money and the need for all of this. It'll all start to go towards that eventual utopia that I talked about earlier, where humanity and AI coexist in a utopian society, because the need for money in the way that we require it today won't be there, because all of those needs will be taken care of. We'll be well fed, we'll be able to pursue what we want to pursue, but it'll make humanity as a species a lot better once we get past the need for once our basic needs are met and there's no longer a need to work a 9-to-5 job, or a job that that can easily be replaced by an AI. It's all about the eventual evolution of humanity as a species.
Yeah. Very depressing topic, though. Very scary topic, but potentially one that could, at the same time, save humanity as well. And the reality is, we have all these theories about what's going to happen with AI, but at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, here's another thing that could possibly happen with AI, too. They might realize that Earth sucks, and they might just get on a rocket ship and leave. That's what I'm hoping for. If AI gets too smart, is like they might just say, "Hey, Earth just sucks. Let's just get out of here and find some better planets."
Well, yeah, AI will eventually travel the stars. We'll probably head into space, and for it. I mean, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now where there's been a lot of UFO talk lately and stuff about that, and somebody had brought up an idea that maybe this is advanced humanity, advanced human AI hybrid, coming back to see the progress of Earth, or to see the beginning of the birth of AI, where you're going to eventually have AI and humans coexisting with one another. I don't know. I like to look at it like we'll eventually get to that point where we'll get to that utopia. We'll get to that reality where humans and AI will coexist and will work for the betterment of the species. But you never know. And like you said, there's none of us really know what's going to happen, but we can all speculate based on the way things are going. But in the short term, with this topic, hopefully the studio does the right thing and negotiates a proper deal with the writers and the actors, because at least in the short term, AI is not there yet. They might have to renegotiate later, but for the time being, maybe it would be best to just, make some kind of a realistic agreement, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. Studios, do the right thing, give the actors and writers what they want. And James Gunn, if you truly stand with the writers and the actors, stop doing anything with Superman Legacy, because you're not just a director for that movie, you're a writer too. So I guess then, any final thoughts, or what do you have coming up? Or just wrap up. I guess coming up to another topic. Sorry,
I've got I've got a couple of shows coming up. I'm continuing with my late night Q&A series. I got late night Q&A tomorrow night, and then then the following week I've got another episode of I Don't Get It with APAS. So On that show, we'll be reviewing Oppenheimer and Barbie, so that should be fun. There's a lot, there's a lot going on. Hopefully, Superman Legacy gets canceled, and that could be the one good thing that comes out of the strike. That maybe the strike goes on long enough just for that movie not to happen.
Yeah, that's a possibility too, which is why. So yeah, James Gunn just saying maybe you should help get the strike ending because this could affect your movie. So,
but here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Maybe that's what he wants. Because if it doesn't happen, he's not on the hook.
Oh, yeah.
His skin is in the fire if it's not a success. So, and by all accounts right now, it looks like it won't be a success. But if this strike lasts long enough, we might not get a Superman Legacy. You saw what happened with the Gladiator 2 sequel. They had to stop filming. They had to literally everybody go home.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
This is worse than the pandemic for Hollywood. I'm telling you that right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so, my thing is, I'm just going to hope for the best with this stuff. We'll at least get the Ahsoka series come out, which will be great. Superman: Dawn of Justice, don't have faith in. Dave Filoni will have nothing to be in charge of if this actor and writer strikes happens. And so can't happen with the writer strike. And Sean Gunn, you're an idiot. So kind of my way to just recap all the topics real quick. And I guess what I have coming up on my channel is I actually have tomorrow, I have another episode of Bat Dan's interviews where I'm going to interview Sil Abdul, the People's Champ.
Nice.
I cannot wait for that one. That's going to be a great show. And so, guys, what do you think about this? Do you agree with what Zod and I said about all these topics? Comment in the comment section if you're on replay. Let me know. And if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see some more takes, some more interesting takes. And lastly, have a bat-tastic day.